Okay, so is this day 3 or 4? I can't remember what's going on. Anyway, I am doing another delaying tactic before I start one of my for real pieces. I mixed up another color, ultramarine blue, and just did a couple of quick studies from some vintage photos found online. So I don't know who this guy is. Kind of looks like Mark Twain. But what's interesting here is I kind of liked how this turned out. So what you can see from this particular sketch is this idea of breaking the shape up into wet zones and then just working that zone. So I just did his one. Excuse me. Still with the cough. So having done the sleeve on the right, I jumped to the sleeve on the left, leaving the dry paper in between. So each of these wet areas is wet when I want it to be wet, but the dry edges are kept sharp. You know, it's sort of keep the wet paint away from the dry paint. Keep the wet paint away from each other, so the two wet surfaces only touch when you want them to fuse. I am going and putting a shadow pass over top. So again, I'm dividing the thing up into patches. So his jacket on the right side, and then his jacket on the left side, and the vest in the center. Each of these patches is wet when I want the paint to flow, but I wait for it to dry before I bring the next wet surface up to that edge, or to be reasonably dry. Here, actually, you could see a little bit of bleeding. But by waiting to the right time, dividing your figure up into these blocks, you can let the wet and wet do its thing inside the shapes. You know, just plan ahead. And yeah, that's kind of that's sort of this what I love about watercolors, the way it blends itself, but I need to be able to control it. So that's a matter of timing and planning and reserving. Be reserving whites or reserving the underneath color, like allowing the color, the first pass, to show through the broken brushstroke. So here I'm applying this kind of collaged shape. I'm building the chunks of the figure out of these mixed broken brushstrokes that are fusing together because I'm touching wet edge to wet edge as I grow the shape. So this thing, okay, so here this is an interesting bit. This part of the skirt doing with the rake, like the splayed out brush, which I really like these Chinese brushes for this because they have very fairly stiff, long hair that you can really scrub and get it to splay out like this, make these kind of rake effects. So look at all the way this is negative drawing, letting the wash that's underneath show through. Letting the wash that's underneath show through. And here I'm going over with a shadow pass to kind of unify that, because I'm trying to create this effect of this black Victorian dress, but not paint it black, because that would be kind of that'd be boring. Yeah. And here, not too proud of this, having to cut around this headdress, but this is a reality of watercolor that sometimes you if it was opaque paint, you could just paint those feathers, plumes in, but watercolor, I have to cut around and very carefully reveal the undertone where I want. Those lighter shapes to bear in the dark, yeah. So, yeah, a fun day of playing around with silhouette shapes while I'm still thinking about my masterpieces, my larger pieces that I want to do for the bulk of 30 by 30. So I think what's possibly delaying me is in my future works, the big ones, the serious ones, I may not be able to get them done in one day. So, which kind of breaks my own rules, doesn't it? What am I going to do? Well, tune in tomorrow, find out. Next episode of 30 by 30 Direct Watercolor 2023.